All right, we got a lot to talk about. Those Deshaun Watson disciplinary hearings, they're starting today, and increasing word coming from probably some sources from at least close ties to the league indicate that the Cleveland Browns quarterback who signed a record deal this offseason may be suspended for at least a year. And we don't usually see news, at least of this magnitude, at this point of the NFL cycle, but this would obviously be massive news, not only for the league as a whole. I mean, this guy currently has the richest contract in league history, but also for the 49ers, since Jimmy Garoppolo is very openly on the trading block. So this is up in Athletic today from Zach Jackson, who writes about the Cleveland Browns for us. That is his piece on Deshaun Watson and the presumable mistake that the Cleveland Browns have made in signing this guy to record money, massive signing bonus. I mean, if he's out for the 2022 season with the loaded roster that the Browns do have, they've got some veterans. They've tried to stock up here for a Super Bowl run. Jadeveon Clowney said that he was coming to the Browns in large part because Deshaun Watson is there. Well, if they don't have him right now, I mean, time is fleeting from a football standpoint, right? Then that's bad news for the Browns. But that also may make the Browns desperate to make sure that they pick up another quarterback and get the job done for them, because it's very possible that they burned their bridge with Baker Mayfield. The former starter, Baker Mayfield, is still under contract with Cleveland, $18.8 million on the fifth-year option. But the question I ask, have the Browns burned their bridge with him? Well, they might have even poured salt on the field, just like the Romans did to Carthage. They hated Carthage so much after they sacked the city. They also poured salt on the fields so that nothing would ever grow there again. Well, in the case of Baker Mayfield and the Browns, I think the salt has been poured by both sides. Baker Mayfield came out after the Deshaun Watson trade with a defiant statement of his own, saying goodbye to the city of Cleveland. He's been excused from offseason activities for the Browns. And I mean, even if Deshaun Watson is unavailable, it might be hard to see Baker Mayfield ever suiting up for the Browns again. And it might be much easier to see the Browns finding a trade partner for Baker Mayfield and then trying to find another quarterback, maybe somebody not named Jacoby Brissett, because Jacoby Brissett is already on the Cleveland roster, but a quarterback who they believe can guide them to the playoffs, and let that roster that includes Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, Amari Cooper at wide receiver, who they picked up for the Cowboys this offseason. Let that roster do some work. And that quarterback might be the 49ers guy, Jimmy Garoppolo. Might Jimmy Garoppolo be an ideal puzzle piece that Cleveland uses for salvaging purposes? Because it certainly looks like the Browns have a lot of salvaging to do. Just consider what happened here. Watson facing 20-plus allegations, who didn't play at all for the Houston Texans while, all these allegations were being investigated, was traded for 3 first-round picks to the Cleveland Browns, who not only spent all that draft capital on him, but also spent an NFL record amount of money, somewhere close to $250 million. I believe it was $240. I lost count. So much of this money also was tied up in guarantees. I mean, the Browns mortgaged the future and then some on a player who might be suspended for the NFL for at least a year, based on some of the rumblings that we're hearing now. Now, it might end up being less than a year, depending on what this adjudicator ends up saying. Roger Goodell, obviously, then will have the final decision, but the NFL is going to get that initial recommendation. Maybe it'll only be 10 games. Maybe it'll be 8 games. But right now, a lot of the vibe coming out of this is that it's going to be a year. And, even if it is 10, 12 games, that's still over half the season. And Baker Mayfield, might not be a suitable option for the Browns, given the way that bridge was burned. If this team really wants to think about a Band-Aid to contend right now, Jimmy Garoppolo might actually be their guy. So that's why these discussions are going to be heating up much more and more here over the next couple of weeks, because it just so, happens that the Deshaun Watson disciplinary talk and the disciplinary hearings are happening in the window during which we expect Jimmy Garoppolo to be healthy and throwing a football again. So trade movement wasn't expected here for a while on the Jimmy Garoppolo front because he couldn't throw a football. That became apparent as the early part of the offseason moved on. Teams might have had a little bit of interest, but that interest wasn't enough to put Jimmy Garoppolo at the front of the line for the game of musical chairs. And we always said that he was behind Deshaun Watson back in March. The Watson domino happened. He moved from Texas, from the Houston Texans to the Cleveland Browns. And then we waited to see if the Jimmy Garoppolo domino would move. His didn't move. Neither did Baker Mayfield's. There weren't enough chairs, remaining for the two quarterbacks who might be playing some musical chairs then. So they both remained on their original rosters. Mayfield with the Browns and now Deshaun Watson, and Jimmy Garoppolo with the 49ers, who now have Trey Lance, and Trey Lance is their presumed starter. But we always said that as time goes by, the game of musical chairs can restart because A, guys are going to get hurt, B, guys can get arrested, or C, in the case of Deshaun Watson, guys might get suspended. And the 49ers, another trade opportunity might materialize for Jimmy Garoppolo coming up because of what's happening in Cleveland. Now, remember, Cleveland, Kevin Stefanski, the coach. Outside zone offense. We talked about J.C. Tretter being their center over the past 5 years. He's still a free agent, though he has some knee issues. So people are talking about his potential fit with the 49ers. But you are looking at an offense in Cleveland that Jimmy Garoppolo is already at least somewhat familiar with. Now, obviously, the 49ers tailored their own version of an outside zone offense into a quick hitting, outside zone, yak-based attack, right? So your outside zone on the ground, quick hitters on the passes, and you want yards after the catch. That's how the 49ers operated with George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and company. The Browns might change some of that up. We'll see what the personnel really dictates. They signed David Njoku, the tight end, to a big deal this offseason in hopes of pairing him with Deshaun Watson. But, looking forward, if Deshaun Watson is not the quarterback for 2022 and they want to salvage some of what they have, because this is a roster that is filled with some talented veterans, Jimmy Garoppolo might be a quarterback that they give a look. So just saying right now, it's about to heat up, and we're not used to stuff heating up this soon. It's June 28th. Those of you just walking in, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Other piece of news today, Washington wide receiver Terry McLaurin has signed an extension, and this is significant because Terry McLaurin was drafted in the 3rd round back in 2019. Obviously, Deebo Samuel was also drafted in 2019 in the 2nd round. A.J. Brown was also drafted in 2019. He was, I believe, a 3rd-round receiver, right, in 2019. So the 49ers are now waiting to negotiate or to embrace and enter serious negotiations with Deebo Samuel. Let's put it that way. Obviously, there has been some back and forth already this offseason, but we know the 49ers timetable with Fred Warner, with George Kittle. Those two things use the deadline pressure of training camp to really crystallize. I expect the same for Deebo Samuel. But now with Terry McLaurin's deal, we have another data point for the wide receiver position. Here's how things have worked, and here's how this might affect the Deebo Samuel potential deal coming up. The wide receiver market was overheated to begin this offseason. You saw Christian Kirk get, 18 or 19 million per year. Then you saw Tyreek Hill become the first $30 million non-quarterback. You saw this entire market just raging earlier in the offseason, and you saw Deebo Samuel try to become part of that when he stepped up to social media, or his friend Ricardo Young stepped up to social media, said 25 million or we're not talking. Well, the 49ers did not want to budge early in the offseason because they did see this overheated market. And then they saw, oh boy, got a fire alarm going on. I got to go, guys. Don't know what's going on. Take care.